So with software skills and talent in high demand across so many industries, increasing retention and investing in capability development is top of mind for many of us here, I'm sure. We're joined by Austin Lehman. He is the head of Backstage for Spotify US, and he's going to be sharing how Spotify has put a laser focus on the happiness of their developers in order to optimize their organizational speed, scale, and systems. So please welcome Austin to the stage.
Hello, and thank you for having me. It is such a pleasure to be here in person with all of you today. For those I do know or I've met on a small screen over the last 2 years, it's great to see you in person. And for those I don't know, it's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Austin. As mentioned, I work at Spotify, and my job is to make our employees, specifically our developers, a little bit happier and a little bit more effective. Today, I'm going to share how we do that and how we think about that at Spotify, hopefully share some sort of grounded tactics or tips that maybe you can take home with you, and at least empower you to think a little bit more about that precious resource you have in your company, those software developers. So the rise of developers has been sort of slow and steady, but also kind of all at once when you zoom out, whether it's powering or building the audio platform in Spotify, or figuring out when best to plant those crops for the farmers that you're supporting. There's software somewhere in most of the systems that all of us are building today or depending on for our business. And who builds that software? Of course, the developers do. And in the last 20 years, they've really sort of become this massive professional segment of the market. I think we sort of take it for granted that there's, of course, many developers, and it's a high growing and in-demand role. And the reality is that we're driving that demand. If you look at the cost of developers, if you look at the demand that we are signaling with the rate of pay increases for software engineers, it's clear. We care about and need to hire developers, and therefore we are paying them and accelerating their pay at a rate that's inconsistent with every other professional occupation. And yet, if you look at retention for developers, it's pretty much worse than every other function. We spend a lot of time on hibachi stations and sushi bars in the office, and those free conference weeks in Vegas that are so fun, and maybe there's free dry cleaning and even childcare. All of these things you can provide, and yet, well, they're still quitting. So maybe the perks aren't working, and so what is it really all about here? Developers are more likely to quit their job than ever, despite us paying them more and focusing so much on the perks. So that's the context. What does this all mean? Hiring and retaining developers is important, and to Spotify, we are a digital product. We spend a ton of time thinking about this. And we have tried just about everything. I don't know if we've actually tried everything, but some days it feels like we have. And really, my job is to figure out how we can make our developers more effective. And to be honest with you, we had this cheeky tagline that was written on a whiteboard in the before times when we were in the office. And we used to joke that, well, we just need to make them a little bit happier. Happy developers will make happier code. They'll ship products faster. Like, what do we do here? How do we make them a little bit happier? And what we realized is there's this somewhat complex slide here that I'm going to try and unpack that is, I think, our formula for, or at least what we've found is effective in building developer happiness. And we focus on developer effectiveness as a proxy for that, which is a balance of two things. There's productivity, so how many units can I push through the pipe in a very, very rigorous sense? And then there's this sort of efficiency. So for each of those units, if I increment the number of developers or the number of inputs, am I actually going faster? And most of the time, org theory will tell us, well, no, every incremental employee or every incremental developer you bring on will actually slow you down. And so for us, this sort of felt like, well, what are we going to do here? We want to make them happier. We think it's about something to do with productivity and efficiency. How can we measure this? We're a product-driven company. That's how we think. If we can't measure it, we can't improve it. And so what we tried to do with effectiveness is test about 1 million metrics. And what we found out is none of them worked better than satisfaction. So when we're thinking about developer effectiveness, which is what I'm going to talk about through the rest of this discussion, we're thinking about developer satisfaction. And we spend a lot of time asking our developers how they're feeling, how they're doing. I don't know if any of you went to business school. I didn't. My wife did. And I remember when she was studying for the GRE and the GMAT, I was so enthralled by the idea that the next question was predicated on the previous one. And we've built a tool called EngSat internally that does just that. So you rock up, you get the survey each quarter. We ask you how you're doing. And each question, based on what you respond and based on what sort of code you contribute, decides the next question. We figure out what domain are you contributing in? What are you happy with? What processes are blocking you? What isn't going well? What is preventing you from being happy? What is preventing you from being effective? And, well, they're banging their heads on the computer a lot of the time. And what we found, and we found this within Spotify, is there's a lot of developers doing a lot of different things, but they're not writing code. Less than 33% of their time is spent writing code. So what are they doing? They're maintaining and testing things. They're troubleshooting security issues. They're dealing with an incident. They're searching for documentation. They're helping somebody who just joined the team search for documentation that also doesn't exist. They're joining a meeting. They're doing all sorts of things. And some of those things are really important. Some of those things are really valuable. All of the time cannot be spent writing code. Writing code and developing and building things is a creative process. We're tasking developers and product managers with solving these big problems. It's creative. You need to work together. You need to collaborate to do that. And then the code is the last step. But 33% of their time, that's not a lot. and what we've done is we've now open sourced a lot of our tools. Other companies are using them too. And what we're finding is this percentage is pretty consistent with well over 100 companies that we've worked with. And so what can we do? How can we make this better? First tip, start measuring it. Start figuring out what are your proxies for effectiveness. I'll give you a hint. The lagging indicator should probably be satisfaction. If they're not happy, they're going to quit. But think about effectiveness through the lens of what your organization is trying to do. So for us, that means writing a little bit more code. That means finding ways to spend time together. We're in a fully distributed context. So how can we optimize when people are together, and how can we sort of rebalance these sorts of effectiveness metrics when they're not? And so we measure it all. That's the first tip. Start by measuring satisfaction in some proxy for effectiveness, which is, again, this balance of productivity and efficiency. We work with tons of companies. There's no magic pill. There's no magic metric, because everyone's a little bit different and your culture is a little bit different. But think about satisfaction and then something quantitative alongside it that balances productivity and efficiency. Next, there's these 3 things that will help you figure out that second bit. So satisfaction, easy. The second bit around effectiveness, a little bit harder. So we focus on 3 pillars: speed, chaos control, and scale. Speed, pretty simple. You, as an engineer, as an engineering team or an R&D team, cross-functional, you want to ship a product to market. Speed, any measure of how long does it take from that idea to get to market. People will call it cycle time. People will call it, on a more micro scale, deployment frequency, or how quickly can a developer ship something from their laptop to someplace else that's in the cloud. There's all kinds of different microsegments you can focus on, but if you know from the satisfaction which places aren't good, focus on the worst ones, and that will help you with speed. The next one I'm going to hit on is scale. This one is duplicitous. For some companies, this may be less relevant. For some, it might be more so. First, in scale, the obvious one is MAU, DAU, all the consumers using your software. Can you actually support the scale, or do you have a massive amount of debt somewhere that is blocking you from doing that? To be honest, most of the companies, for Spotify and most of the companies we work with, that bit of infrastructure scale is less a problem now. And the bigger bit of scale that's a problem is the growth of the developer population. So you hire more developers, and then they all slow each other down. I join the company. Where do I start? I joined this team. What do I own? I'm in this organization. What do we own? How do we fit into the bigger thing? What do we depend on? I don't know. Where's that? Is that written down? No, most of the time I have to go tap somebody on the shoulder, or now I have to set up a Zoom meeting with them. And I have to say, what do we own? Can you onboard me? Can you teach me these things? So we have speed, we want to ship things faster. We also want to be able to have more developers contributing to that speed, but we don't really have a way to help them do that. And lastly, we have chaos control, which is my personal favorite. There's so much entropy in the software development world. Think about the number of SaaS startups. Think about the amount of capital going into the SaaS market in the last few years. Think about everything we've heard about today. There's more technology that can do more incredible things than ever. Then look internally to your organization. Are people building reusable internal tools? Are people building Lego blocks that others can depend on? Are people using open source software? All of that is chaos. It is so much harder to be an engineer tomorrow than it is today, because there are more tools to pick from. There's simply more decisions you need to make as an engineer. And while those things are incredibly powerful and incredibly valuable to what you need to accomplish, it can be really hard to choose the right ones. Maybe you just joined the company, and at your previous company, you used this thing, so why not use it here too? Well, then you've created inconsistency across your organization, and so you've introduced more chaos. And so as a developer and as an organization, these are the three things we and these are the three things we focus on within Spotify, and these are the things we're trying to help other companies focus on too with Backstage. So tying all of these things together, that's where Backstage fits in. The idea is that what we can do is give you a language, give you an operating system that allows you to figure out the right balance of these three things. Maybe it is massively important for you to focus on speed right now based on where you are in the maturation cycle of your company or your market. Maybe it's all about scale. Maybe it's just a little bit of a mess and there's a lot of chaos that you need to clean up. Each of these things can be optimized for through these open source frameworks and through these tools that people are using. So you can think about Backstage as effectively a single place where developers can go to find things within your organization. It's not a magic tool. I'm not recommending you use it. I'm just telling you that some investment in something like it might be worth considering, because you have this incredibly valuable resource that you're signaling with your rate of pay increases that they're really important and you really, really need them. And yet, what are you doing about retention beyond those perks? What are you doing to actually make sure that those developers within your organization are a little bit happier? Backstage is one outlet, one way to invest in that. There's now hundreds of companies using it. There's tens of thousands of people contributing to it in different ways, using it every day within their company. But it's just a single mechanism. It might be something else. And so what I hope to leave you with today is one thing. This is my favorite road. I love cycling. This is my favorite road. Bonus points if you know where it is. But it is in Mallorca. It is exceptionally frustrating. It is beautiful, it's well paved, it's just a great day, except there you are on the road feeling like you're going absolutely nowhere. It is a hill the whole time. And you're like, well, I must be getting somewhere. And then, no, I must, just around this bend, then I'll be at the top. Then I'll get to sort of take in the view. Then I'll get there. And that's what everyone's looking for is sort of the elevator to the top. They're looking for the fast path to get there with their developer population. They're looking for the magic tool that will just say, aha, we solved it, let's check that one off the list. But the reality is, with developers, you're dealing with people, you're dealing with creatives who you've spent so much money to hire, you've spent so much money to retain. And so it might be worth thinking about this, a windy path that is worth the long-term investment, that actually leads to a place where people are really, really happy to work. And that doesn't mean perks. That means that when they come in to do their job, the balance and allocation of their time is aligned to what they actually want to do, to the things they want to build, to the mission that made them join the company in the first place. So, what I aim to leave you with is this. If you consider one thing, think about going back to your organization and fund one small thing. Fund a user research project. Many people have asked me this week, okay, where do I start? I don't have a developer effectiveness organization. What do I do? Should I hire some engineers? No. Hire a data scientist, hire a user researcher, bring one in on contract, and ask them to go talk to 20 developers in every country where you're located, in different functions, different levels of seniority, range of diversity, and ask them why they hate their job. Ask them what isn't going well. Ask them what is blocking them. And then focus on what you can do to improve that. Start to measure it. Maybe it's speed, maybe it's scale, maybe it's chaos. Those are 3 really good places to start. But find what it is within your organization. Spend a very small amount of money relative to all that dry cleaning and childcare and help them be a little bit happier in their work. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the program.